It was a crisp, starlit night over the European front, the kind that made the horrors of war seem a world away. The Allied pilots, seasoned by countless sorties, navigated their aircraft through the serene darkness, the roar of their engines a familiar comfort. Lieutenant James O'Hara, a skilled American pilot, led his squadron in a tight formation. Suddenly, his radio crackled to life with a tense voice.
Red Leader, do you see that?
His wingman, Sergeant Collins, called out, a note of disbelief in his voice. James peered out of his cockpit and caught sight of it, strange, glowing orbs weaving effortlessly through the night sky.
What in the world?
He muttered, gripping his controls tighter. The orbs seemed to play a game of celestial tag, moving with an otherworldly grace. They were unlike any enemy aircraft or natural phenomenon the pilots had ever seen.
They're keeping pace with us.
Another voice chimed in, Lieutenant Davis, her voice a mix of awe and apprehension. Back at the base, the air was thick with cigarette smoke and hushed conversations. Pilots and intelligence officers huddled around a makeshift table littered with maps and reports, trying to make sense of the sightings.
They appeared out of nowhere, no radar signature, nothing.
One pilot recounted, his eyes still reflecting the night's mystery. The room buzzed with speculation.
Could be some new Nazi technology.
One officer suggested, only to be met with skeptical looks.
No engine noise, no exhaust. It's unlike any tech we know of.
Another countered. As dawn broke, the men were no closer to an answer. The Foo Fighters, as they had started calling them, remained an enigma, a ghostly presence that had pierced the veil of war, leaving behind more questions than answers. The pilots knew one thing for certain, the skies of World War II had just become a lot more mysterious. Under the steel-gray dome of the early morning sky, the airbase was abuzz with activity, though not the usual sort. In the mess hall turned impromptu meeting room, a group of pilots hunched over cups of coffee that had long since turned cold. Their mission had been routine reconnaissance, but what they encountered was anything but.
Just after we crossed the enemy lines, there they were.
Sergeant Collins recounted, the image of the orbs seared into his memory.
Like ghosts dancing in the night.
Lieutenant James O'Hara leaned back against the wall, his arms folded across his chest.
They moved with purpose.
He added.
Intelligent, maybe even curious. Never seen anything like it.
The room filled with nods and murmurs of agreement, each pilot lost in their own replay of the night's events. Suddenly, the door swung open with a brisk creak. Lieutenant Davis entered, her eyes scanning the room, a silent command for attention.
We have similar reports coming in from other squadrons. It's not isolated,
she said. Her voice was steady, but her hands betrayed a slight tremor. Captain Edwards, the base intelligence officer, tapped a cigarette from its case, his gaze never leaving the maps sprawled across the table.
We need to consider all possibilities. New enemy aircraft, a natural phenomenon, or...
His voice trailed off, unwilling to entertain the more outlandish theories.
Or what?
Sergeant Collins pressed, leaning forward. His voice held a mix of fear and challenge. The captain exhaled, a plume of smoke curling upwards.
Or we are dealing with something beyond our current comprehension.
A heavy silence fell over the room, as if his words sucked the air out of the space. Each man and woman present understood the weight of what remained unsaid. Outside, the first rays of dawn crept over the horizon, casting a pale light on the faces inside. It was a new day, but the night had brought a mystery that seemed to stretch far beyond the dawn. As the morning progressed, the airbase became a hive of whispered theories and speculative analysis. In the cramped confines of the intelligence office, maps, and photographs were strewn across tables, surrounded by officers deep in discussion. Captain Edwards led the effort, his fingers tracing flight paths and sighting locations.
Could these be experimental enemy aircraft?
He pondered aloud, to which a junior officer replied,
Unlikely, sir. No known aircraft moves like that, not even on the drawing board.
In another corner of the room, a group of technical analysts huddled around a radar screen.
No signals, no traces.
One muttered, shaking his head.
It's as if they're not even there.
Lieutenant Davis, her eyes scanning through reports from other bases, added,
There's a pattern to these sightings. Always at night, always in contested airspace.
Her statement hung in the air, suggesting an intelligence beyond mere coincidence. The atmosphere grew tense as the implications of these observations became clear. Each new report, each piece of evidence, seemed to deepen the mystery rather than clarify it. Outside the office, the rumble of aircraft engines and the routine activities of the base continued, a stark contrast to the bewildering puzzle unfolding within. The normalcy of the base's operations belied the undercurrent of uncertainty that had taken hold among its personnel. As the day wore on, the question loomed larger and larger: what were they dealing with? Conventional explanations seemed increasingly inadequate as the mystery of the Foo Fighters persisted, challenging the boundaries of understanding and belief. As the mystery of the Foo Fighters deepened at the European Air Base, similar reports began surfacing from other parts of the world. Halfway across the globe, pilots flying over the vast Pacific reported encounters that mirrored those of their European counterparts. At a remote Pacific airfield, American pilots gathered under the sweltering sun, exchanging stories of glowing orbs accompanying their night missions.
They're like phantoms, appearing and disappearing without a trace.
One pilot remarked, wiping sweat from his brow. Meanwhile, in the North Atlantic, British naval aviators reported strange lights trailing their aircraft. These sightings were initially dismissed as enemy tricks, but the consistency of the reports raised eyebrows. In the cramped quarters of a Royal Navy ship, officers pored over maps and communications, seeking patterns in the encounters. Far to the east, in the skies above Russia, the Soviet Air Force grappled with their own sightings. Russian pilots, usually tight-lipped and stoic, privately expressed their bewilderment. In a dimly lit briefing room in Moscow, high-ranking officers debated these anomalies, the tension palpable. In each location, the response was a mix of skepticism and intrigue. The international nature of the reports lent credibility to the phenomenon, yet explanations remained elusive. Military strategists and scientists alike struggled to understand the nature of these apparitions. As dusk fell across these varied landscapes, the pilots prepared for another night of uncertainty. The Foo Fighters had become an unspoken presence in the skies of war, a global mystery that transcended borders and confounded the brightest minds. The Foo Fighters phenomenon wasn't just a concern for the Allies. Reports indicated that Axis powers were encountering the same inexplicable sightings. Intelligence gathered from intercepted communications revealed that German pilots were equally baffled by these mysterious orbs. In a secluded Luftwaffe base, German airmen were seen engaged in hushed conversations. Despite their initial skepticism, the frequency and consistency of the sightings had become too significant to ignore. Senior officers scrutinized flight logs, searching for any clue that might shed light on the encounters. Simultaneously, in the Pacific, Japanese airmen also reported similar experiences. Japanese military command, usually reticent about such matters, began to take these reports more seriously, considering them in their strategic planning. This surprising turn of events led to a strange sense of camaraderie across enemy lines. Though the nations were at war, their pilots faced a common, unseen adversary in the skies. The Foo Fighters were a mystery that transcended national conflicts, uniting aviators in their perplexity. In Washington and Berlin, in London and Tokyo, the highest echelons of military command pondered over this phenomenon. Theories abounded, from advanced reconnaissance technology to psychological warfare tactics. Yet, none could provide a satisfactory explanation. As night fell over the battlefields and cities, the sense of wonder and apprehension grew. The Foo Fighters, glowing in the night sky, continued to challenge the understanding of even the most experienced military minds, remaining an enigma amidst the chaos of war. As the sightings of the Foo Fighters persisted, the quest for answers became more desperate. Governments and military agencies around the world, typically shrouded in secrecy and rivalry, found themselves in an unspoken race to unravel the mystery. In the United States, a covert team of scientists and military experts convened under the utmost secrecy. In a secure facility, they pored over every scrap of evidence, from pilot testimonies to radar data. They debated the possibilities: natural phenomena, enemy technologies, or something entirely uncharted. Meanwhile, in the United Kingdom, a similar group was assembled at a clandestine location, their efforts paralleling those of their American counterparts. British experts analyzed the patterns of sightings, trying to establish a correlation with weather conditions or enemy movements. In Germany, the response was more guarded, with high-level discussions taking place behind closed doors. German scientists and military strategists speculated on the potential of these sightings as a new form of Allied deception, investing resources to counter what they feared might be a new weapon. The Soviet Union, too, initiated a classified investigation. Russian scientists were particularly intrigued by the possibility that these sightings could be related to unknown atmospheric phenomena or even extraterrestrial activity, though such theories were discussed only in hushed tones. In Japan, military leaders debated the strategic implications of the Foo Fighters. They considered whether these phenomena could be harnessed for their own advantage, pondering over the unknown with a mix of fear and fascination. This global search for answers spanned continents and crossed ideological divides. Yet, with each passing day, the Foo Fighters remained an enigma, their presence a persistent reminder of the limits of human understanding in the face of the unknown. The search continued, a shadowy pursuit in a world consumed by war, where the line between the known and the unknowable was constantly blurred. As World War II drew to a close, the Foo Fighters remained an enduring puzzle. The cessation of hostilities did not bring an end to the sightings, rather, they seemed to fade away as mysteriously as they had appeared. In the post-war period, the subject of Foo Fighters became a topic of intrigue and speculation in both scientific and public domains. Veterans, once sworn to secrecy, began to speak openly about their experiences, sharing tales of these inexplicable phenomena with a world eager for answers. In academic circles, debates raged on. Some researchers suggested that the Foo Fighters were a result of atmospheric conditions unique to the tumultuous times of war. Others posited that they were experimental aircraft or drones, ahead of their time in technological advancement. Yet, the lack of concrete evidence left room for more unconventional theories. Ufologists seized upon the Foo Fighters as potential proof of extraterrestrial visitation, weaving them into the broader tapestry of UFO lore. This interpretation captured the public's imagination, leading to numerous books, documentaries, and even feature films. Governments, for their part, remained largely silent on the matter, neither confirming nor denying the various theories. Classified documents from the era, when eventually declassified, offered no definitive answers, only adding to the mystery. As years turned into decades, the Foo Fighters became a footnote in the annals of history, a strange occurrence in a time of global turmoil. For those who witnessed them, however, they remained a vivid reminder of the unknown, a symbol of the mysteries that lie beyond the reach of human understanding. The Foo Fighters, glowing in the night skies of a world at war, lingered as an enigma, a question mark in the vast expanse of human experience.